Flip, 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 flip weekly.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Flip Weekly podcast. This is a podcast all about reselling, and we go to thrift stores, we go to garage sales, we find things on Facebook Marketplace that we can resell and make a bit of money. Now, this has been a sort of like this week's gone fast. Man, this week has actually gone really fast. The fact that we're already in August now just continues to blow my mind. It is August the 6th. It is a Thursday morning. Thank you for tuning in. And we're going to be talking about everything that I've picked up this week, everything I've sold, and everything in between. Now, we're not going to be talking about things that I usually find. You know, this podcast is littered with sports jerseys, littered with what else do I pick up all the time? Video games, books. We have a few of those. I don't want to talk about them too much, even though there is a listing in here that was bought for like $50. Legit listed up on eBay for like $1,000. It's not really what I want to be talking about, because this week I've just been buying things that I don't usually buy, and somehow it's worked out okay for me. You know, one of the things that I picked up were like these stained glass houses. You know, what do I know about stained glass? Legitimately nothing, except I might have heard from a reseller years ago to be buying stained glass, and I've never really found it. I never really bought it before. You know, it wasn't that long ago I was walking down the street with my girl, and I was pointing out that like it's hard to find like not hard to find, it's rare to see like a front door of somebody's house that has stained glass, and yet it looks so good, like the sun shining in. I don't know what it's like to own the house. Like, are the sun rays a different color or a certain variation? Because if you have red glass, does it shine red inside? These are the questions that we should be asking. But yeah, stained glass, never really found it before, and yet this week we found it, we picked it up, we bought it. I'm going to talk about that. Going to talk about buying what child's play, right? Crayons, pencils, pens. Who knew that you could buy these and resell them for like over $100? You know, like crayons. I'm literally talking about crayons and colored pencils that you need to sharpen. Like, I couldn't believe some of these comps on these items. These aren't your regular jerseys. These aren't your regular video games that you're buying in a thrift store, or your clothes, or your books, or your DVDs. We're picking up some unusual stuff, and we're going to go all in on stained glass and colored pencils. So if that sounds like your idea of fun, stick around. We also have a whole bunch of sales to get to. We do have a few other things that we bought throughout the week that sort of lean towards what I usually buy. You know, the books and that sort of stuff. But no jerseys. Yeah, no jerseys. Unusual. And yet I should have had at least 3 in my hands by now. Man, like, just quickly before I get into what I bought, what I didn't buy. And this is my problem in life, I think. I engage in a thing called delayed gratification. That basically means I sort of torture myself so that I accomplish tasks because I don't have any sort of, I don't know, is it self-control, or I don't have any sort of like ability to process things or do things without some sort of reward, right? So in my daily life, if I say like, I need to do this task, I need to do this chore, I am going to look ahead and see if there's anything that I can, you know, gratify myself with. If there's anything that I can reward myself with, even if it's something as simple as like, and this is going to sound bad, as like eating food, like eating nice food. I'm not going to eat like my lunch or my dinner until I complete these tasks. That's delaying my gratification. I'm not going to, you know, do anything that's fun or, you know, enjoyable until I take care of all the menial, boring shit first. So I do that in my daily life, and I do that when it comes to thrifting. So I was in a thrift store this week. I was in a Lifeline, and I got to their very small men's rack. There's 2 racks in this Lifeline. they usually divide it up with shirts and your standard polos. And then on the other rack, it's like your jackets. So what I do in a thrift store, and this is something that cost me money this week, but also like, I don't know, it's just weird, right? It's just a weird habit. You're going to see it if you ever see me in a thrift store, is I'll take a step back and I'll look at the entire rack, or I'll glance over it. And what I'm trying to do is see if there's anything on the rack that I think is like what I'm going to pick up, right? And I don't go straight to the item. So I stood back from this rack and I looked in the corner and I saw a green collar. It was either green or gold, and long gold sleeves, green cuffs at the end. It looked like a long sleeve Australian Rugby Wallabies jersey, right? And these things sell all the time on eBay for about $200, if not more. It wasn't that long ago that I found this exact jersey in this exact lifeline, and I picked it up and sold it on Depop for like, it was over $100, right? So I did that. I got to the rack, I took a step back, I looked, and I was like, okay, it looks like there's a Wallabies jersey a bit further up, but I'm going to delay my gratification by looking through this first rack, all these boring t-shirts. They're not going to be worth anything. You're not going to find an over $100 t-shirt in this rack, but I'm going to do it because it's boring. And then I have my reward at the end, right? And of course, what happens? A lady comes in, she goes straight to the second rack. She looks at the Wallabies jersey. She's looking at the inside tags. And in my mind, I'm like, surely she's not going to buy this, right? She's not like engaged in it. It looks like she's looking away from it, but at the same time inspecting it. She doesn't pull it off the rack and give it like a full look over, because then I would have, caught my attention. I would have had a better look to see what this was. She was basically inspecting it when it was in between clothes. Then she took it off the rack and took it with her. I'm like, oh God. Then for the rest of the day, I'm thinking like, it's the one that got away, right? Like I would have picked this up for maybe like $15, $20. That's what I paid last time in a lifeline. And it would have sold for like $150, $200. And I was at the racks first. This lady was over in the kids stuff, like looking at kids shit. And I had this entire 2 racks to myself. I could have went straight to it, but instead I thought, no, I'm going to go the slow way. I'm going to start with the stuff that doesn't sell for any amounts of money. It's all bullshit. And then slowly work my way to my reward. But I didn't get my reward. There was no reward. So I did the task and there was no, gratification at the end. I don't know if there's is there a life lesson in that? Maybe you shouldn't do your chores before gratifying yourself. I don't know. But I just know for the rest of the day, I was thinking, it really annoyed me. I was like, Matt, why didn't you go to the valuable item instead of just leaving it there for somebody else to buy? I don't understand. I understand why I did it. I just don't understand why I continue to do it, right? Like, you should just get the valuable item. Anyway, that was the first one that slipped through my fingers. And then we've been dealing with our unreliable, reliable jersey guy, the AFL guy, right? I've talked about him a million times before. He has an in with a coach that can get us, player issued jerseys. And he sent me a message earlier this week saying he could get, 2? He can get another 2. He was going to pick them up on Sunday and he would drop them off on Monday. I sent him the $100. And of course, what happens? They don't get dropped off on the Monday. I sent him through a message saying, can you drop them off tomorrow? And then his reply to me is something to the effect of, have you not seen the news? I was at the training grounds with my kids, with the coach. I was going to get 5 jerseys, but there's a gunman at the entertainment square, Moore Park in Sydney. All the streets were closed. I couldn't get to them on time. Blah, blah, blah. It's all just an excuse, right? You said you were supposed to have them by Sunday, drop them off Monday, Arvo, and then on Monday night when I messaged him, this was the excuse. This was the excuse. By the way, that whole Moore Park Entertainment Square thing, if you didn't hear about it, very, very unusual. Very unusual. Look into that if you haven't already. But yeah, he ended up coming back to me saying that, the coach can't get them for him until the end of the season, which is like 3 weeks away. So, I mean, I'm just being fed bullshit, right? Like, these are all lies, which is expected when it comes to this bloke, because he's the most unreliable person. Unreliable, reliable, whatever. So I told him, send me back my money. I don't know what's going to happen. I said to him, if you can get me something else in the meantime. He's a sort of resourceful guy when it comes to his involvement in this area. But yeah, it's just, I should have had 3 of these things by now. I could have bored you with probably less conversation than this, what I've just said to you. You would have gotten less, but yeah. Let's just move on, because that's enough of the Jersey talk. We want to talk about what was picked up in op shops today, because there's some weird stuff, man. If I'm leaving an op shop, what do I think I'm going to be leaving with? It's probably what I just talked about. It wasn't what I picked up. I walked out of a Lifeline op shop with pencils and crayons. And they're not like, in perfect condition, right? Like, the crayons were broken. There was pieces missing. Like, I mean, when I explain this to you, you don't realize where value is. When you look at this, you think, this is literally broken crayons. Let's throw them out. Lifeline wanted $10 for them, so they didn't think that way. But most people would say, let's get rid of them. They're broken crayons, man. No one's going to pay any money for this. And same with the colored pencils. There was a box, right? They could fit 24 pencils in them, and there was 21 in there. None of them were sharpened. So at least you had the aesthetic of unsharpened pencils. But there was 3 missing, and Lifeline wanted $20 for these pencils. You know that I'm not a man of discerning taste, right? If I want colored markers, pencils, I'm going to Officeworks, I'm paying $2 for like a set. However, I know from, my past, right? Like, oh my God, Matt has a past. Yes, Matt has a past. And the past is that I was, in a way, sort of, but not really, adjacent to the art scene, right? And I knew from experience that pencils, crayons, markers, anything in that sort of art realm can sell for good money if they're certain brands. For example, you go to Officeworks right now, you go into, the marker section, look for Copic markers, right? Next time you're in Officeworks and you're buying your bubble wrap, your butcher's paper, or you go into the back of Officeworks and you buy like your 1 kilo tub of Haribo gummy bears, look for a brand called Copic markers. It is not unusual for a set of these markers to sell for over $500. I'm looking at the Officeworks website right now. There's a 12-pack selling for $128. There's a 36-pack for $383. There's a 72-pack selling for $664. Now, some people might say, well, Matt, that's just what Officeworks has them listed on their website. They're just their active listings. No, I know from experience and from buying these fucking things, people spend money on this. And people get other people to spend money on this, including yours truly. So I bought this brand before, but that's not what I found. I didn't find Copic markers in Lifeline. What I found was a brand called Beryl Prismacolor. Now I'm going to just say that again. Beryl, which is Berol, Prismacolor, which is the US spelling of color, so Color. And I found the pencils and the crayons. Now, when you go into a Lifeline or you go into any sort of op shop, if there's been a donation that they can form, like a little corner or a little display with a theme, they're going to do it right. So Lifeline had set up this little artist painter's studio in the corner. So it got my attention. I went over, there was like your easel, there was a canvas paper, there was, the crayons, pencils. Some artists had obviously donated this stuff, probably because they realized that AI slop is everywhere and nobody can appreciate good art in 2026. Why bother spending 100 hours on your oil on canvas when literally the dumbest person you know can become a quote unquote artist, prompt a computer to generate quote unquote art. I've seen this everywhere online with the AI brochures and the AI posters. There's going to be a major backlash to this, by the way, I think. So anyway, this artist, this person that donated these items, they had really, really good taste in material. Like not great taste, amazing taste, right? So the first item, the Beryl Prismacolor pencils, they were unsharpened, which is a big deal in the art community, but it's not a deal breaker. These are really, really good pencils. To an artist, they can discern the difference. To me, maybe to you, you can't really tell the difference. But people value this sort of stuff. People value high quality pencils. And when it comes to this brand, this Beryl Prismacolor brand, you know what they do? You know what they have the balls to do? And this is like the first time this sentence has ever been uttered in the world. They discontinue colors, right? They come up with a color, not red, not blue, not your standard color, and then they discontinue them. So artists, if they want like the perfect shade of, I don't know, make up a color, like your perfect shade of like I don't know, I'm looking around the room like brown sugar beer. Does that explain what I'm looking at right now? Brown sugar beer, right? You want your perfect brown sugar beer. But this brand has said, no, you can't have that. We're not doing this color anymore. We're discontinuing it. So what does somebody like me do, right? I just go out and I buy another brown, another color that looks like that. Not true artists. They want the brown sugar beer. That is the perfect color for their project. They're not going to stop until they can find this brown sugar beer. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to jump onto the secondary market like eBay, and they're going to find this brown sugar beer. Now, switching back to what we bought, the pencils. Of these 21 pencils, it contained a color that has been discontinued. This color was called the Deco Aqua, right? Now, the true name of this is the PC 1060 Deco Aqua. Complicated name for a pencil or for a color. It's not red, it's not blue. Deco Aqua. So this must be the perfect shade of aqua for your true artist, right? They run into the problem, they can't find this, they have to go to eBay. There was one of these in the set. Now, I'm not exaggerating. When you look on eBay right now for sold comps for this specific color, there is one that will blow your mind. There was a set of 12. This color came in a pack of 12 back in the day. You could buy individual packs. A set of 12, unused, unsharpened. They recently sold for $260 US. Convert that over to Australian dollars. What's that? It's like 330, 340, 350 Australian dollars for a box of 12 pencils. Now, if I found all of this discontinued color in a box of 12, that's how much I would have got. But I didn't get that. I found a box of 21 and they were all different colors. So the first thing I did was obviously look into what the discontinued colors were, which is like such an absurd thing to do. Like this color doesn't exist anymore. Apparently the metallic colors are the ones that are like the most valuable, right? I only had one color discontinued, but the rest, they were all still vintage Beryl Prismacolor pencils. So knowing that we can make good money on this sort of stuff, it gave me enough confidence to buy them. I went up to the counter, I played the tortured artist. Yeah, I'm taking these pencils home, I'm going to create a masterpiece, right? Reality, I'll just stick them up my fucking nose. I bought the pencils, I paid $20 for them. Now, I'm not going to tell you the comps, the solds, the actives for these just yet. Keep listening until we get to what sold, because you are not going to believe what these sold for, how quickly they sold for. It's going to blow your mind, right? because people want this stuff. It's hard to get in Australia. Like I said, they were made in America or made in Mexico, one of those countries. They don't exist in Australia, especially the vintage stuff and the fact they were unsharpened. Now, the crayons, they were broken. They were missing pieces. There was all different colors. They don't discontinue the crayon colors from what I understand, but they all are still like the Beryl Prismacolor colors, right? So I listed them up. They currently got a couple of people watching, but they haven't sold. But the listed price is also just, it blows your mind, right? Like, these are just pencils and crayons. I will tell you what the lesson is for this pickup when it gets to the end of this podcast. Well, when we get to what I sold, because there is a lesson here. The lesson isn't just buy pencils and buy crayons. If you go out after this and pick up like a bunch of Crayola pencils and crayons, you're in the wrong business, right? There are things to learn here and you can apply them across all different categories. But we're going to move on. And this is also going to be a learning lesson for everyone listening here, because we have found something on Facebook Marketplace that we're going to be selling for a lot of money, right? This isn't a $20 item. This isn't a $30 item. We paid $50 for this, and it's an absolute banger. I sent a message after 56 minutes, right? Like, in a way, I feel like I have no competition when I buy these things, and these are books. These are books on Facebook. You know, the people that are sniping the listings on Facebook Marketplace, they're targeting the video game consoles. They're targeting, shit like that. The home runs, which is what this is, they can sit for an hour. They can wait for me to wake up, and then I can just go out and buy them and make a shit ton of money. So the title of this listing, it was a box set of books, right? It was called Percy Jackson box set, $50. And here's the thing about books. One way that you assess items that you don't know anything about, if you don't know anything about books, think about the manufacturing process. That's what I do, right? That's what I did with the pencils. That's what I did with this box set. Think about the manufacturing process. How does it apply to books? All right, you have your paperbacks, you have your hardcovers. What's the most valuable? What is the most expensive to create? Whatever's the most expensive to create, to manufacture, is most likely going to be the most expensive to sell, right? That's the hardcover. Costs more to make. And then in most cases, lesser made because it costs more up front. And then you think, okay, what about when it comes to a box set of books? Softcover box set or a hardcover box set? Which one is worth more? It's the same as before. Hardcover is going to be worth more, and there's going to be less made because it costs more upfront. Now, apply it to this specific item. This is a hardcover set of books in a box set, and it comes inside a special box that looks like a treasure chest. Is that going to be worth more than a regular set of books inside of a box set? Yes, it is. So I saw this marketplace listing. It was for Percy Jackson box set, $50. The first photo showed the books weren't housed in your standard rectangle cardboard box. Instead, they were inside what is called a steamer trunk. Now, a steamer trunk is basically a treasure chest, right? It must be an item within the Percy Jackson universe, which I haven't seen or read. And this steamer trunk, it breaks the mold. Now, it breaks the mold in both senses of the word. It isn't your standard thing that you would see. And also, when creating this item, you need molds, right? Or I don't know how it works with cardboard, but if you're making something plastic, you need molds created for it. So it breaks the mold. It catches my attention. I see each book, they're a hardcover inside. They have gorgeous spines. You need to check out the spines of this book, the typography, the coloring. Go to flipweekly.com and check it out. They look amazing. Now, I'm not familiar with Percy Jackson, but I do know of it. I see it all the time. I knew previously that like the paperback books, you're not really wanting them. Hardcover first editions, of course. I knew that it was a book series by Rick Riordan. It was adapted to film, but that's basically all I knew. So I just did a quick Google just to see what these are about. And the hero was a dude named Percy. And the basic idea is that his dad was Poseidon, the Greek god, but his mum was just your regular human. So Greek gods, monsters, they all exist in the modern day. And from there, I don't really need to read more because it would just play out from that, right? So this is a box set, Percy Jackson, all the books, hardcover, beautiful spines inside a limited edition box set. It is extremely hard to come by. When I looked this up, there was only 1 active listing and 11 sold. Now, as of now, there's 2 active listings. There was a new listing that's been added, but the one at the time had 12 people watching it, and it was listed up, and get this, for $1,332. That was in the US, 12 watches. The new listing a bit lower, well, a lot lower, $430. That one was pre-owned, the other one was new other. And the difference always comes down to quality. The new other looked like it was in great condition. The box didn't have many scuff marks on it. There wasn't any rips or tears in the book. The pre-owned version, the box had a rip in the back. It had collectible cards that came inside of it, as well as a map. They were all opened and loose. The one that we found, the listing said it was an unwanted gift. Now, this came out years and years ago. So this guy has only just put up his unwanted gift now. And because it was an unwanted gift, the books never read. The collectible cards, the map, the poster, that sort of shit, never opened. Still factory sealed. Now, we look at the sold listings. They're all in that $500 range. They all hover around that mark. So I'm guessing that $1,300 listing was banking on the fact they were the only active listing for who knows how long. It might have been closer to the 90 days that the sold listings stick around for. It might not have been, but they're trying for $1,300. Somebody's trying with a pre-owned ripped box for $400-ish. I'm testing the market, right? I picked this up for $50. I've listed it on eBay right now for $999.95. There's a chance to turn $50 into $1,000. 50 into 1,000 on a couple of books. If you're not looking at your books, if you're not familiarizing yourself with books, what are you doing? I'm going to go out and look for vintage band tees. Oh, how much are you going to make? How much is like the best vintage band tee? I've been seeing those TikToks lately of photo galleries, people finding their old prom photos or their old school photos. Not their prom photos, definitely their school photos. In America, they show what the kid was wearing at school in the 90s, and then they look up that t-shirt on eBay. These are the old like graphic tees of Metallica and other popular bands at the time. I'm seeing like them active on eBay for like $200, like $100. Those vintage band tees aren't fetching you the amount of money that we're making with books, man. We're making so much money, and this was released earlier than like the vintage Metallica band tees. I see resellers when they go to a garage sale, they must be lost for words, and they go through what they're after. They're like, do you have any video games? And the next thing they ask for is, do you have any band tees, like vintage band tees? It's so niche. It reminds me of when I went to garage sales back in the day, and I was like collecting one thing at the time, which was sealed VHS. And I'm like, do you have any sealed VHS? Because my mind wasn't like ticking through what I actually wanted to get. So I'd say, do you have any sealed VHS? And absolutely every single person was like, no, we don't. That's a very weird thing to ask. So I don't know. All I'm saying is that these books are just underappreciated by resellers. I don't see any resellers going to garage sales and saying, do you have like any box set of books? Do you have we're making $1,000 from this. If it sells, probably not. We'll make maybe like a best offer on it, whatever. But this is the price of like 5 vintage Metallica t-shirts. And yet you're still going to go to a garage sale and ask about, do you have any vintage band tees? This 80-year-old woman that has never been to a concert in her life. And if she did, it would have been fucking Willie Nelson on an acid trip when she was in her 20s. Actually, that probably would have been a good pickup. But yeah, just don't leave out books. Don't leave out books. Just familiarize yourself with these, like hardcover of popular series in a a box set that looks a bit different. Anyone could have found this. It was online for an hour. Pay $50, boom, done. $1,000 listed up. Stop buying like Mario Kart on Wii and making like $30 when you could be buying a book and selling it for 50 to 100. Anyway, I just one more thing about that. I found Mario Kart, is it number 8 on Wii U? Left it behind today. Didn't care about it. Sell it for what, $25-30. Other people would pick it up because it's a video game, but we're trying to make more money from that. And then I go into the next op shop and I find a series of books that are listed up for like $200 and I paid like $20 for them. Shipping will be a pain in the ass, but there's just so much money to be made in books. Anyway, I don't want to go on too much about that. Let's just move on because we're going to head to a different op shop and we're going into the local Vinnies, and we cleaned up on a type of item that I don't come across. I don't come across it, and I also have never bought it before. So this is the first for me. So I spotted like these festive looking boxes on a Vinnies counter. There was 3 of these in total, and they were priced at $10, $10, and $15. And each of these boxes, they had an image of a building on the front of them, and the buildings were lit up. From looking at the sides of the boxes, these were made of stained glass. So these are like, miniature buildings made of like 100 different pieces of glass. I don't know how they do it. They must just break a window, right? And then try and put it back together to make it look like a building or make it look like a house. There's a couple of them here. They're from a brand called Former Vitrum. I'll say that again, Former Vitrum. Now these are old, right? They're probably from the 90s. And I heard about, stained glass from resellers. Like I said to you, it's something you should be keeping an eye out for. But you just never really find them, or I've found them before, if they're in just like a single sheet, or they're a part of like some wooden structure, not as big as a door, but like the size of like a cheese platter board, and they've got like stained glass in them. I don't know what I'm really describing. Stained glass cheese platter, that doesn't exist, but it's sort of like that. I've seen them before, right? So to see these miniature houses in these boxes, it caught my attention. The fact they were quite cheap too. I was like, okay, well, this looks interesting. So comping them up was almost like a no-brainer. But the only issue with these boxes was that each of them was like duct tape shut. So I had no idea what the buildings looked inside. I'll tell you what the buildings were in a second. And as you know, with op shops, if something's sealed, a puzzle, a game, anything, you should really open it up to see what the inside looks like. But with these duct tape shut, literally duct taped, not just sticky tape, duct tape, I couldn't open them. I didn't want to start opening up stained glass in a thrift store, in an op shop, because I didn't know what was going to happen. If they fall out, they break. With the fact it was only like $35 in total, I decided to take the gamble. I bought them all, cleared them out. I brought them home, and I was thinking, like, what are the odds that these are going to be like intact? And what are the odds the light up function of these things work? They're old, man. What are the odds? They can't be working, right? Wrong. To my surprise, not only were these things intact, they were working, and everything was inside the box. Like, we had detachable pieces, like a Christmas wreath made out of glass. These little garden planters made out of glass, still wrapped. And then we had certificates of authenticity. And then we had all the original styrofoam. I'm taking a guess that these were never taken out of the box. So these are basically complete in-box stained glass miniature houses, miniature buildings. Now the 3 buildings, there was a church. There was something called the Breadman's Bakery. And there was another one which was the Doctor's Domain. Now, they all look like your standard street houses from the front, but they're all just a tiny bit different. I mean, the church obviously looks like a church. If you want to see photos, flipweekly.com. I'm just looking at the years now. They're from 1993. So they are quite old. They're almost as old as me. I was born in 92. So these, to survive this long without any damage, not being taken out of the box, it's impressive. and to make it through the thrift store process, right? Like somebody would have donated these, people out the back, whether or not they opened them up or they just said, screw it, let's list them up for 10, 10 and 15. Yeah, they mustn't have been bothered with inspecting them properly because they weren't taken out of the box. They were sealed with duct tape. I just got lucky. So we move on to like the next issue with these. Well, the issue at first isn't the sell-through rate, because the sell-through rate on these stained glass collectibles is really, really good. I mean, not really good. They're pretty good. We have 157 active listings and we have 58 sold. And of the sold listings, they were quite impressive in terms of price. The church has sold for $235, the Doctor's Domain $195, and the bakery for $100. So the sold listings are, they're good. But there is a dilemma. We have a dilemma. Nothing can ever go smoothly. Of all of those active and sold listings, not a single one was within Australia. Not a single one. No active, no sold in Australia. Now, these buildings, these collectibles, they were primarily made in the United States. Very seldom do they show up down under. So what do, man? This is my first time selling stained glass. I don't know the market very well. If this was a video game that never made it to Australia and then I finally found it in Australia, I would know that video game collectors would pay up for it. But I don't know that about stained glass. I don't know if there's collectors. I don't know if they take them out of the box and display them, or if they keep them inside of the box, like people that buy the video game console boxes. I don't know anything about that. Are they buying it for the brand? Is this like a really good brand? Are they buying it just for the glass? And I don't know if they'll pay a premium to have this brand in Australia. So I don't have those answers. So we really just take a guess when it comes to listing them up. And I listed all three up on eBay, and then they didn't get much traction. So I listed them on Facebook Marketplace, and boy, oh boy, did they get traction. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. Stick around to what I sold. You're not going to believe it. Now, speaking of Facebook Marketplace, we did have a sort of regular find cheeky video game deal. This was on Monday. We found something that's going to double our money. It's not like a massive home run. Like it's not a 15 to 1,000. We're going to double our money at least. We found a complete in-box PlayStation 4 Pro 1TB. It came with 4 games and a controller. I paid $150 for it. Now, it's more than what I'd want to pay, right? But it's a good deal because I saw a PS4 and a controller in a Vinnies on Friday for the exact same price. But this one was in the box, and that is all that matters. Now, the games, they're not anything special. We got Call of Duty Black Ops 3, we have Titanfall 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, and a Resident Evil Biohazard. And of the 4 of those, Resident Evil comes up the best, but it's not crazy. It's like $30. But here's the thing. Everything combined, without the box, which we have, without the box, you can expect around $250 for everything. Maybe $300 if you're lucky. I can see one here for $289 that's sold. I can see a listing here that sold for $300, which was the console, 1TB console plus the controller. But if you have the box, that's where we know we've got a good deal, because I'm looking at sold comps here of $349.99. That's just the console box with a controller. And I assume the accessories that go with it, the power cable and whatever. So we got a good deal. We got the original box, we got all the inserts, the cables, the controller, and the games, while they're not crazy, they are, semi-decent. So I'm going to aim for $399.95 on eBay. I could probably expect to sell it for anywhere between $350 to $400, probably closer to $350, but either way, it's close to double our money, right? And always remember, if you find one of these consoles out in the wild, ask if they have the original box. You're always going to get a premium if you include the box. All right, now we're moving on to what I sold, and before we get started, I actually picked something up just before this podcast went live, and I posted it on social media. If you're listening, or if you're watching on Instagram, you would have seen it. It was like this plush toy, and it's actually sold within like 8 hours, so I wanted to just quickly mention it. It is, I mean, it's a little monster, man. Like, it's a little green-eared, purple fur, orange belly looking monster thing. And when I saw it in salvos for $7, I thought it was one of those My Pet Monsters or My Monster Buddy. Because if you find one of those plush toys, there's sold comps for them for like $300. So I saw it and I was like, okay, it had a piece of cardboard around its neck that said, "Press my belly and I speak." Now I have him with me here because I'm going to ship him off tomorrow so you can listen to some of the phrases. But he is sold in like 8 hours. I mean, I posted him last night on eBay. I wasn't going to list him up because he didn't have any brand attached to him. You know, My Monster Buddy, $200 plush, has, you know, the branding on its foot. The My Monster, oh God, there's too many My Pet Monsters plushes. They have the brand name on the tag. This guy just has the most generic looking tag that says all new materials filled with 100% polyester fiber, surface washable. Now, it made it difficult to work out exactly what it was. So without any markings on that tag, I opened him up into the battery compartment and there's nothing there either. It's just all generic information. So I listed him up as like, what did I say? Vintage talking monster plush. He's about 30 centimeters and it's in the style of My Pet Monster, Monster Buddy. If you want to see photos, go to flipweekly.com, check out the newsletter. But his phrases, man, he talks and he doesn't have like 1 or 2 or 3 phrases. He says like 14, 15 different things. So he sold for $100 to somebody in the UK and they're paying like $40, $50 in postage. I've got him here. I have the monster in my lap. I mean, that sounds pretty, wrong, right? Like I have a monster in my lap. I'm grabbing my monster. He's going to talk. He's going to make an appearance on this podcast. Let's see what he has to say.
Hello.
Now, I didn't plan that, but Monster Buddy here wants to say hello. What else do you say, Monster?
Chains can't hold me, but you can. Let's go get 'em! Somebody stinks.
Sounded like a truck. I thought that was just going to be like a truck horn. So yeah, I need to take out the batteries before I ship him internationally, but keep an eye out for like these little monster plushes. To be able to sell that quickly is it's very impressive. Like I said, I wasn't going to list him. I thought without a brand he was just going to sit in the empty universe of eBay and get no views and nothing else. But yeah, sold within 8 hours. Was it 8 hours? Yeah, it was about 8 hours, man. Really, really quick. $100 plus $40 postage. I only paid $7 for this thing. I think my favorite quote that he says is, "Old MacDonald had a cow. He tasted good." So it feels very much inspired by My Pet Monster, especially when he said like, "Yet no chain can hold me," because the My Pet Monster came with chains. This guy didn't have any chains, but it must have been inspired by that brand. Either way, keep an eye out for those sort of plushes. But we're going to move on to the next thing that's sold, and I'm going to tell you, you need to hold your breath because I'm about to tell you the price of these pencils. We have like 21, 22, I can't remember the exact number, Beryl Prismacolor pencils, unsharpened, including that famous Deco Aqua PC 1016. It's so weird to think that's a pencil. The PC 1016. Have you guys tried out the new PC 1016? It's a pencil. So, man. So they sold in 48 hours. We bought them for $20. $20 colored pencils in Lifeline. They have sold for $120. $120 for pencils. I had these up on eBay, believe it or not, for $180, and I accepted a best offer of $120 in 48 hours. Given that we had that best offer, I'm sure I could have got the full asking price if I just waited it out. But I accepted it because I'm like, this might be one of those situations where you get one offer and that's it for the life of the item. But yeah, 20 into 120 on some unsharpened colored pencils. This is probably like the biggest flip that I'll ever do for pencils. I don't think it's going to get any bigger than this. So pat yourself on the back. We have $100 colored pencils. I can't wait for the crayons to sell because, I mean, they're all broken up and it would just be a bit of a flex to say that we sold $100 plus bunch of broken crayons. Man, the things people buy, it always astounds me. But here's the thing. The reason why I think these sold quickly was because of 4 different things. It was a combination of these 4. And it was that these are vintage Beryl Prismacolor pencils. They do not come up often in Australia. Second is that all the pencils were unsharpened. It seems to be a big thing in this community. And then we had that discontinued color. And the box that they came in was actually a vintage Beryl Charisma color storage box. That was just like an offshoot brand. And yeah, that's what the pencils were stored in. Now, in terms of like the pencils being unsharpened, it is a big deal, but don't let it, dissuade you if you ever find a set like this out in the wild, because people do prefer unsharpened. But I'm looking at sold comps of, sharpened pencils. There's 140 vintage Prismacolor pencils, 124 are sharpened, 16 unsharpened, and they had sold for $156 in the US. So it's just a bunch of pencils that have been used, $156. But if you find the unsharpened pencils, I mean, there's a pack of 60 here on auction that sold for $629 with 22 bids. And then there's a pack of 120 and they sold for $626. So there is so much money to be made in pencils. What an unusual category. But just keep an eye out wherever you are. And just remember, pens, pencils, if they're good brands, if people have put effort into the branding, into the presentation, just look them over and see what it is. Now let's talk quickly about the stained glass that I picked up. I was not expecting the reaction that I had when I finally cross-listed these on Marketplace. Like, they were on eBay for a premium price, but after a day or so, I didn't get much activity. I threw them up on Facebook and there they went bananas, man. We're not talking just like hundreds of views. We're not talking about saves. We also had many, many shares. And of those 3 that I picked up, every single one went pending the day that I listed them. The first one out the door was the Doctor's Domain, $100, a flat $100. Guy came, picked it up, paid cash, nice green note in my wallet. The second one that went was the Breadman's Bakery, $100 cash, easy money. Then the third one, the church, $100 cash. Every single one for a flat $100. So that's like $35 into $300 in the next day. Well, I mean, 48 hours, because we wasted a day listing them on eBay. Who would have guessed that there were so many stained glass collectors in my area? I wouldn't have known that, man. I thought that the church was going to be the first to go because it has that overlap between, religious people and stained glass collectors. I thought, like, who is going to be buying the Doctor's Domain building? Who's going to be buying a bakery? Like, who wants bakery stained glass? Apparently everyone does, because I was getting messages after messages from so many different people. They were being shared, they were being saved. This is just a really good investment. 35 into 300 so quickly. And now that I think about it, if I had just bought one and it sold quickly, I wouldn't have really known the market was this big and this passionate. For all 3 to move within a day shows me that this is like something that I should be buying again, whether it's a bakery, doctor's office, or a church. I'm not going to make assumptions if I see them out in the wild. I'm just going to buy them all, see what will be the most popular, and just make a ton of money from that. So that was 35 into 300. Just repeating myself once more for the people in the back. So much money to be made in this stained glass. Now, I had a couple of other sales throughout the week, but they were quite small and not really worth talking about. There's nothing too exciting. I guess apart from the big ones, it's just all smaller stuff. If you want to see what they are, go to flipweekly.com. There's a Sonic magazine. There's a big box PC game. Nothing that is, worth talking about. I'm not going to waste your time. And you know what? I'm just going to say that's about it for the week. We're just going to end this early because we have had a really good week. We have sold pretty much everything that we've been picking up. We sort of buried the lead with this stained glass stuff, considering we bought like a $50 set of books that is listed up for $1,000. But that doesn't matter. It's all cool. This will sell. Everything will sell. So thank you again for tuning in. This has been an exciting week with those sales. A reminder that we still have my biggest flip of all time coming up, most likely in September. It's sort of ongoing at the moment. I've teased this out a lot. Make sure you follow Flip Weekly on social media. You'll be able to see a video of that stained glass going up the morning that this goes live. And yeah, thanks again for listening. I will see you next week.
Flip, 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 flip.
Flip Weekly.